The wound was always there. What the cancer does is remove the last reason to keep it hidden. You sit in a parking lot the night of your diagnosis, and you wait for grief. What arrives instead, underneath the fear, is something that feels almost like relief. Like a door opening. You've been a dying man for 20 years. The tumor just made it official. Your brother-in-law is a DEA agent. He takes you on a ride-along, something to distract you. You watch his team move through a small operation, and in the crowd being pushed back from the scene, you see a face you recognize. Jesse Pinkman, former student, small-time dealer now. Your eyes meet through the car window. You don't say anything. You let him go. And on the drive home, while Hank talks and talks, something assembles itself quietly in the back of your mind. Here's what's happening psychologically. The terminal diagnosis has changed the social contract. The rules you've been living under. Be patient, be modest, accept what you're given, defer. Those rules existed because you had something to protect. A future, a reputation, a self that needed to survive in polite society. The cancer lifts all of that. It's not the cause of what comes next. It's the permission slip. And the part of you that's been waiting, very quietly, for a reason to stop pretending, that part doesn't waste it. You track Jesse down. You make him a proposition. You're a 50-year-old chemistry teacher at a drug dealer's door, and you're not afraid. That absence of fear is the first signal that something has fundamentally shifted. Fear is for people with something to lose. He agrees. You drive home. The performance of Walter White, the reasonable man, isn't over yet, but its days are numbered. And somewhere underneath the cancer and the fear, you're glad. The first cook happens in the New Mexico desert. You move through the process the way you move through nothing else in your life, with total authority, the specific pleasure of a person doing exactly what they were built to do. The product comes out 99.1% pure, better than anything on the market. You're not afraid. You're not guilty. You feel competent. You feel alive in a way you haven't felt in years. Hold on to that feeling, because it's going to do a lot of work in the months ahead. What you've just done is morally indefensible. You know this. But the human mind doesn't require moral consistency. It requires moral comfort. And it's got a remarkably sophisticated set of tools for producing that comfort on demand. Albert Bandura, one of the most influential psychologists of the 20th century, called it moral disengagement. The mechanisms the mind uses to maintain a positive self-image while doing things that contradict it. You're about to become one of the most complete examples of this process ever put on screen. The first mechanism is moral justification. The goal is good, so the means are acceptable. You've got cancer. Your family will be destroyed. You're not a criminal. You're a provider. A dying man doing what dying men have to do. The money arrives and the justification deepens. You're not a drug dealer. You're a chemist filling a market that exists with or without you. Your presence, you tell yourself, is almost a public service. Each rationalization arrives fully formed, exactly when you need it. That's the nature of moral disengagement. It doesn't need to be consistent across time. It only needs to cover the gap in the moment. And brilliant minds are the most efficient rationalizers that exist. You look at your son and feel the justification solidify. This is why. This is what it's for. The story is airtight. And the lie isn't in the justification. The lie is in what the justification is protecting. Something you won't understand for a very long time. You give yourself a name. Heisenberg. Practical, you tell yourself. A pseudonym, a separation between your two lives. But names do something to people. They create a space for a self to occupy. The hat goes on and something shifts in your posture, your jaw, the way you move into a room. Heisenberg doesn't apologize. Heisenberg doesn't defer. Heisenberg doesn't wash someone else's car, or accept a teenager's contempt, or perform patience he doesn't feel. This is what psychologists call identity drift. Not a sudden transformation, but a gradual reorganization of self-concept around new behaviors. You don't decide to become Heisenberg. You just keep acting like him until there's more of him than there is of you. A distributor puts Jesse in the hospital. You visit him. You sit by his bed, and what you feel isn't grief. It's cold. Someone's threatened your operation, and that requires a solution. The distinction between protecting Jesse and protecting what you've built is one you spend considerable energy not examining. You walk into a drug dealer's office alone, put a bag of fulminated mercury on his desk, and blow out his windows. You should be terrified. You're exhilarated. And a shrinking part of you that's still Walter White notices that the exhilaration wasn't about standing up for Jesse. It was about someone challenging your authority and learning what that costs. You file that distinction away without looking at it. You go home. You eat dinner. You pass the bread basket. The seam between who you are and who you've been pretending to be gets a little thinner. At some point, it disappears entirely. You won't be able to locate the exact moment. That's how identity drift works. Her name is Jane Margolis. She's 27 years old. She draws. She's the person Jesse is slowly becoming a better version of himself around. You watch this the way you watch everything now, as a variable in a system you're managing. Jesse's useful when he's desperate. He's harder to control when he's okay. Bandura identified dehumanization as one of the final stages of moral disengagement. You don't decide to stop seeing someone as a person. It happens gradually. They become a function, an obstacle, a risk. The process is so quiet you don't feel it happening. Jane finds out what you do. She threatens to expose you. You pay. But she's an addict in recovery, and Jesse will do anything for someone he loves. And the two of them together are a variable you can't control. She relapses. You go to Jesse's apartment late. You tell yourself you're going to talk to him. Jesse and Jane are both asleep. Jane is on her back. She begins to choke. You stand across the room. You watch. You don't move toward her. She dies. You walk out. In the days that follow, your mind offers its explanation. She was going to destroy Jesse anyway. You didn't cause her death. You simply didn't prevent it. That's dehumanization completing its work. A young woman is dead in front of you, and your mind has already converted her into a problem that resolved itself. This is the moment. Not the cooking, not the money, not the violence that comes later. That apartment. That night, the specific quality of stillness on your face. The empire builds from here with a certain inevitability. The moral architecture is complete. You're cooking in a state-of-the-art underground lab. Your product's the best on the market. You've solved systematically every problem you said you needed to solve. This is Bandura's final stage. Moral disengagement so complete it reconstitutes your identity. You don't rationalize your behavior anymore. You've become a person for whom the behavior is natural. There's no gap left to bridge. You've long since passed the number you told yourself was the end. The cancer goes into remission. You keep cooking. The justification, the dying man, the medical bills, the family, has nothing left to justify. You don't scrutinize this. You've become very good at not looking directly at things. You're making $80 million. You're the most competent person in every room you enter. You're exceptional, finally, undeniably, in a way the world can no longer ignore. And here's what'll take you until the very end to understand. The meth was never the drug. This feeling was. Hank figures it out. Jesse turns against you. The empire collapses fast and from multiple directions at once. The way things built on this foundation always collapse. People die. People who trusted you. People who were simply in the geography of your choices at the wrong time. Your son calls. He tells you he hopes you die soon. He means it. The love that made the justification possible, the son, the family, the reason for all of it, has become the thing that finally undoes the story. You end up alone in a New Hampshire cabin in January with $8 million and no one left who wants to be in the same room as you. The machinery slows down. Without anything left to protect, the justifications stop arriving, and something clarifies. You've got one last conversation with your wife. She's heard every version of the story. She's done with all of them. And you say something true. I did it for me. I liked it. I was good at it. And I was alive. That's the collapse of the entire moral architecture. Every justification, every displacement, every euphemism, compressed into 6 words. The family wasn't the reason. The money wasn't the reason. The cancer wasn't the reason. The narcissistic injury was the reason. The wound that opened 20 years ago when the world refused to treat you as the exceptional person you believed yourself to be. Every decision that followed was an attempt to close it, to prove something, to feel, finally, the way your ability always told you that you deserved to feel. Everything else was a story you told to make that want survivable. You've never cooked methamphetamine, but you've told yourself a story about why something you did was actually fine. You've used language that made a harmful choice sound neutral. You've compared yourself to someone worse and used it to stop looking at yourself. You've let something happen that you could have stopped and found a reason afterward that made the letting happen feel like a decision rather than a failure. Bandura's research found that moral disengagement isn't the exception in human behavior. It's the norm. It activates in ordinary people, in ordinary situations, every day. The progression Walter White goes through: injury, permission, justification, identity drift, dehumanization, collapse. It's a human arc scaled to dramatic extremes. Each stage follows from the last with a psychological logic that is, if you're honest, recognizable. The difference between you and Walter White isn't the mechanism. It's what the mechanism was protecting, and the scale it was applied to. The question his story asks, the one that makes it so uncomfortable to watch, isn't whether a brilliant man can become capable of terrible things. The question is what you're already capable of, and whether the only thing standing between you and finding out is an opportunity you haven't had yet.